What if we turned Nottingham Forest vs Midtjylland into a takedown of the narrative around unlucky Forest and the deeper pattern of performance under pressure? Here's a completely fresh YouTube-style script that explodes the topic with hard numbers, bold takes, and a lot of personality. Let me walk you through a dynamic, commentary-driven piece you can film tonight. If you're watching this, you probably expected Forest to crest the hill in Europe this season. Spoiler: the hill keeps getting steeper. I'm not here to praise Forest's chances per se. I'm here to unpack what the night at the City Ground revealed about risk, finishing, and Guardiola-level patience from a Danish side that rarely shines, but never blinks when it matters. Personally, I think this game is less about a single misfire and more about a recurring pattern, a team creating chances, but failing to convert, especially under rain-soaked pressure. What makes this really interesting is how it mirrors broader football dynamics, where creation, without conversion, becomes a self-imposed handicap. From my perspective, the story isn't only the goal, it's the psychology of finishing when the stadium is dripping with frustration. Opening gambit, the hook in the rain. The match was a test of nerves more than a test of tactics. Forest peppered the Midtjylland goal with 22 attempts, yet the ball wouldn't stay in the net long enough for a goal to appear. What this really suggests is that volume without precision is a myth. Possession metrics can lie when the decisive touch deserts you. Personally, I think the weather exaggerates that truth. Rain amplifies fear of taking decisive shots, which often leads to overthinking and mistimed strikes. If you take a step back and think about it, a team can hammer the box and still come away empty if the final ball isn't clean. Elliot Anderson enters the frame as a symbol of almost. He tests the keeper, he drifts into space, and he creates a near miss with a moment of quiet brilliance. What many people don't realize is that in those moments, the mind is racing: should I shoot, pass, or fake? The answer isn't always clear, and the best players learn to convert those near misses into the next game-winning moment through repetition and belief. In my opinion, that belief is exactly what Forest needed more of on the night. Forecasting the second leg, pressure becomes a narrative weapon. Forest now travels to Denmark with a one-goal deficit and a fresh set of questions. Can they convert? They'll need to flip the script, not just replicate the chances. What this really suggests is that knockout ties expose the flaw in a team's identity. You can be fun to watch, but still fragile when luck tilts away. A detail I find fascinating is Midtjylland's patience, scoring only on their second shot on target and banking 2 late goals this season at the City Ground after the 80th minute. That patience is a blueprint: wait for the moment and strike when the pressure peaks. Sacking Dijk to hire Pereira was supposed to bring an uptick in results and style. From my perspective, the early returns show a mismatch between risk and reward: 4 defeats in 6 games under Pereira. That's not just bad luck, that's a signal that the system isn't yet aligned with the squad's talent ceiling. This raises a deeper question: how much time should a club give a manager to instill a new philosophy when the results bite hard and audiences demand movement? Key patterns to watch as the tie resumes. Finishing under pressure. Forest's 8.6% shot conversion rate across the season is startlingly low for a team in the Premier League. What this really suggests is that high creation without clinical finishing is a needle in a haystack scenario. If you're chasing a miracle in the second leg, you don't just need more chances, you need sharper decision-making in the box and better finishing timing. In my opinion, that's the area where Forest should invest focus this week. A focused finishing drill that translates intention into goal-scoring momentum. Defensive discipline under stress. Ola Aina's lapse that allowed the winner hints at how thin margins punish errors in high-stakes nights. What this demonstrates is that a single moment of misjudgment can redefine a whole tie. The bigger takeaway is that the best teams minimize those moments, even in chaotic weather. What this means for the Forest squad is clear: tighten concentration as the clock ticks and the weather worsens, not just when you're in control. The hidden value of late goals. Midtjylland's 2 late strikes this season at the City Ground show you can win games on patience and timing. What this really highlights is that in Europe, you don't just need to be good, you need to be ready to seize the exact moment when the other team thinks the door is closing. If Forest can replicate that killer instinct in the return leg, the tie could swing dramatically. What fans and analysts often miss about this match? The emotional temperature matters. This wasn't a tactical stalemate so much as a mental endurance test. What this really suggests is that the atmosphere, the weather, the stadium, the boos, can influence technical execution as much as any tactical tweak. My take: when pressure rises, teams with resilience and a practiced calm in front of goal win more often than not. The trajectory of Pereira's project: the early setbacks aren't fatal if you read them as signals, not verdicts. From my point of view, the bigger trend is about building a squad that not only creates chances, but converts them consistently, especially in European competition where marginal gains decide knockouts. Closing thought: where does this leave Forest? One thing that immediately stands out is the need for a clear finishing blueprint. If Forest wants to progress, they'll have to flip the finishing switch and deliver in Denmark, or risk a season defined by near misses rather than meaningful milestones. What this really suggests is a broader football truth: creation is not enough without clinical execution and ruthless consistency. If you're a Forest supporter, the second leg is the test of whether this project can translate potential into results under pressure. What this means for the season, in my opinion, is that hope must be paired with tangible improvements in finishing practice, mental resilience, and in-game decision-making. Final takeaway: the narrative isn't just about one goal or one night. It's about whether a club can build a culture that thrives in knockout games, in rain, in doubt, and on the cusp of elimination. If Forest can do that, the rest of the journey might just start to feel like a story worth telling rather than a replay of what went wrong. As a viewer, I'm staying tuned to see which version of Forest shows up in the second leg, and whether the resilience outpaces the misfires.